Well, I'm sure you all really enjoyed those films, and I'm sure there's lots of things that have made you want to go and investigate more, learn about more, being inspired by. So hopefully we'll be able to help a little bit by asking the filmmakers themselves a bit about their films. And the first person we're going to come to is Carol Harrison, who is the writer and director of The Personal is Political. So this film, a very hard-hitting, sharp, very time evocative, but timeless film. What inspired you to make it?
It's actually memoir, so it's my childhood, and so I'm now a grandmother, so it's looking back and having grandchildren. I thought about my own childhood and the way I was brought up, and it's the difference between activism, which isn't it's still around, but the activism of there, and then also the houses I grew up in. So my mission was to kind of recreate the textures and colours, sounds of where I grew up. And the process is really, well, first of all, I went to college and did it. It's a student film. So I was doing an MA in these late years. Yeah, because I didn't have an education the first time around. So it was very nice to, and I learned so much. I'd never done animation before. So, and I'm a maker. I like to make things. The whole of that set, everything was made, and the characters and the puppets. I started with the posters as a means of communication for the political message at that time. And they're from the Poster Workshop, which was from 1967 to 1973, I think, was when it closed. I really liked the screen printed hands-on approach, and that's the kind of approach I took to my film, because it's learn as you go along. Quite like to see the hand in the film, how it's made. I spent about a year doing it all, filming frame by frame as I was making, and then well, I didn't have COVID. COVID happened, and so the rest of it was all done. The editing was done at home, and it was 50 years between that happening and now. And I was thinking about well, like lots of the questions going in Europe, coming out of Europe, Black Lives Matter, you know, lots of things which were equivalent to what was going on then.
Fantastic, and it's great to hear that it's such a personal view, and also, as you say, things, the world is changing and it's not
Yeah,
changing, and it's lovely
yeah,
to actually show that.
yeah. I was just going to say the photographs I put it in the end were the real life of what I'd been making the movie about.
And it was a
Yeah,
lovely
thank you.
photo, and it showed, you're welcome, it showed all those lovely um, ethnicities and ages and genders and their personalities in that shot, which was fantastic. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. The next film we're going to be chatting about is Being Me in Current America, and I'm going to go straight to Dmae and Roberts and ask, why did you decide to make such a deep and powerful film?
Before the pandemic, we had a stage production for the ISM project, monologues about the intersections of race, orientation, gender, and national origin. Being Me in the Current America was one of the monologues that we chose from the wonderful writer Josie Seed, who's with us today. And we did a stage production, and then we were going to tour it at the beginning, starting March of 2020. And so we were going to tour it to all the Oregon towns. And the whole idea was to create dialogue between the divide. You know, this was in the midst of the pandemic, as we all had to work with, and all the theaters in town were closed. But this one theater, Shaking the Tree Theater, donated their space. They were a refueling station of supplies for the protests, the Black Lives Matter, the racial justice protests that were going on in Portland at the time. And so Being Me in the Current America, it was just such a powerful script to begin with. And the performance by Shireen is just breathtaking. It was so important with the juxtaposition of what was happening in Portland during that time with the pandemic as well as the protests. To do this piece.
Thank you, Dmae. That was great, and a fantastic background and introduction to this powerful piece. So I'm going to swing right across to Josie, and Josie, tell us why you felt it was so important, and how did you go about scripting such a wonderful piece?
Yeah, thanks. You know, it's really funny. The film, I find the more that I am exposed to people who have seen it to speak about the relevance, I think racism and marginalization is a universal issue. And so it's touching me that people are able to kind of feel themselves and see themselves in this space, regardless of, you know, what the skin color of the person who is acting Shireen, the amazing Shireen, is doing. Everything that's in that film happened to me. It was an experience that I had in, I think, you know, everywhere in the world, you have those towns, those cities, those streets where it's, you know, that certain type of people that, you know, that aren't allowed there, right? And so for us, there's a, you know, neighborhood called Lake Oswego. There's a theater there that I have worked at, you know, and every time I go there, it's like there's certain things that I feel like I have to have. You know, my tags have to be up to date. My lights on my car have to be working. I have to have my wallet, all of these things, because you never know what's going to happen, you know. Being able and being asked to talk about that and express that was both freedom giving, but it was also a little traumatic. I know when we first talked about writing it, Dmae asked me, because I'm also an actor, she was like, would you like to do it? I was like, oh no, I'm not going to do that again. Mm-hmm. But seeing Shireen do it, I know that she knows how I feel. And I feel like it's a monologue that you could give to almost, you know, any person, and they would make you feel it, because we all know what that's like to some extent. And so I think it was me trying to be brave. I usually don't, you know, let people in my business. But being able to really kind of dig into myself and put it out there in the world is important, so people can see themselves.
Yeah, I got that completely. And I'm a very lucky woman, because being mixed race in the UK, being brought up in Scotland, of course, racism does exist. And I have had situations in this country and abroad, but I've never had anything like that. And I sat absolutely terrified. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't breathe. And then the thought that this is happening to now somebody I know, but also just as a general thing, it's just, you know, being me in current America. What an astounding piece. So thank you for sharing it. A trauma like that. Thank you. And I know that you're going to get even more encouragement to write like that, to be as brave as you were with this. And it was an honor to watch it. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's great. So I am going to go from somebody being me in current America to somebody being herself in current UK. Joy and Scott from Joy Uncensored. So, Joy, what possessed you?
It's very simple, really. I wanted to show the world that I thought was everything I hated: racist, sexist, homophobic, gross. I wanted to just see whether I was brave enough to get up there and show them that somebody like me could give it a go and do it without being that. That was the theory that actually happened and got captured on camera. And that's what I should have done, and that's where it should have ended. But it didn't. I've become absolutely part of that world, because it definitely has some dodgy elements to it, but in the main, I've discovered this beautiful world where young men talk about their mental health, and they're absolutely kind, and they've welcomed me, and I genuinely, I used to have friends called Susan and Janet and things, and now I've got Scully the Mad Hat and Maddo and Bacon, and and they're proper friends, not just acquaintances. So I think the reason why I said yes to the documentary, and it wasn't just a quick thing, this was a long journey we had together, was I really felt like they wanted to understand my story and my journey and what happened, whether it was a car crash and went viral for the wrong reasons or whatever. And they really got to know me. They came and chatted and filmed my 90-odd-year-old mum and things like that. It wasn't just, oh, follow the battle. It was really get to know who I was, why I was doing it, what was happening next, what was I thinking. And so it actually was, it was really nice to have that discussion going on in the background while I'm going on this crazy journey.
The power that is in there, the power that you have and the power that these young men have as well. It was just such a joyous representation of power in so many different forms. So it was
positive power. You know, all these stories that these young men have got, you know, the power of these words and the performing. Who in their right minds would stand in a room and do that? But, you know, it's had the power to keep people out of jail. It's beautiful and gentle, and I'm very privileged to be part of it.
Yeah, it's very, very touching as well. Given that Joy is so uncensored and so full of bounce and joie de vivre, how do you even attempt to contain that power at any particular stage?
Oh, not at all, not at all. No, we've got our cameras ready to go. So whenever Joy would pick up the phone and speak to us about what next adventure she was taking on, we were right there. Like we didn't want her to kind of rein it in at all.
And you didn't want me to put anything on as well.
No.
You kept, you know, it just had to be genuinely what was me.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's for the long haul. It wasn't just like a little, you know, oh, here's a nice story. You know, let's laugh at the old lady or whatever. It was none of that whatsoever. That
comes across this. It's a really authentic piece from the young men, from you, from everybody involved in the filmmaking. It's a testament, really, a testament to how we are and how powerful things can be. So thank you very much for sharing that with us.
I've done all that without mentioning Natasha. You know, it was the actual director who spent most time with it. I mean, Scott was amazing. But Natasha absolutely drove where, you know, and really we got to know each other so well, but she can't be here today. So, you know, we cannot. Make sure you edit something in about Natasha, please.
We will make sure that we say about the wonderful Natasha and how she brought this all together and stood with it and worked with it all the way through, for sure. We definitely will. And thank you. Thank you so much. So the next film we're going to go to, it also made me laugh, made me cry, and just, again, filled me with joy. I smiled from the minute this film started to the minute it ended and after, and that's Grandma's Visit. So Katie, Tuckwell, tell us a wee bit, why did you decide to make this film?
Hey, Grandma's Visit was a final grad film, and it was taking me like a really long time to think of the story. I think I was like 2 weeks in the unit, and I recently had a grandma character that I made up because I think I based it on me thinking about what kind of person that I would be like as I got older. So I started to turn that into a character, and I kind of gave her like a friend in the during it, because the characteristics of the grandma is that she was quite moody and grumpy a lot, and I think a lot of grandma characters in film and TV they're usually quite sweet, so I thought it would be quite comedic if there was a slight change to that.
Right from the first go, where she gets her walking stick at the door and she knocks the picture, and then she goes across, and you can see that utter determination, and she's not going to sit still, and she's not going to be put in a corner, and it's just really triumphant as well at the end, but hilarious, absolutely hilarious. So have you got any other ninja grandmas that are
Yeah, I had a really good film team because the style of the film, it's quite specific. It's very like Looney Tunes, so it was quite easy for me to find all the artists that were into that kind of style. So we managed to still connect after a year, and we are working a bit more on like other sketches involving Grandma and Grandpa.
Well, I can't wait. I can see a whole series appearing. Get that on screen as fast as you can, because it was fantastic. And just thanks so much for sharing it with us as well. And such a serious subject as well, ending up being, you know, one in a care home and one not, just bringing that together and just, it was lovely, really lovely. So thank you. And it was lovely to see in your film that breaking of a stereotypical ninja grandma's husband that was in the care home, and the stereotypical view of old people is that the man has had certain duties and responsibilities and is the protector, and the lady, particularly of that generation, is the one who is softer. But with yours, it was really great to see the role reversal and to see her charging into battle to get him out. Was that a conscious decision on your part, or did it just evolve?
The film was based a lot on the relationship of grandma and grandpa, and I just wanted to create like a difference between the two personalities. And I guess this is a bit of a weird reference, but with Wallace and Gromit, I think the two characters are very similar, where one's a lot more serious and one's just like chilling, doesn't really know what's going on. So I tried to make something a bit like that. Yeah, it was a conscious decision.
I loved all the girly screams in it when all these things were happening. There's these fantastic screams every now and then. Who was acting? Who was doing that?
I voiced grandma, and then I got a few friends to do some like elderly grunts and stuff like that, and the voices. Yeah.
Well, good job. Good job. We'll look out for you all at the Oscars. Thank you. So now I'm going to go to Kiri from Perth. That is a phenomenal film as well. I can't believe how diverse and extraordinary they are. So Kiri, if you unmute yourself, I'll say hello again, and then we can go from there.
Hello.
Hello, Kiri. So tell us, tough, unusual, disturbing, funny, challenging. From the word go, what made you make it?
I was doing my master's program at art school, and I had to share my space with a lot of young people, which often is really engaging and really stimulating, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes you become acutely aware that you're a mature person, and an enormous amount of assumptions are made that you have nothing to offer. I look like just an ordinary, plump, middle-aged lady, and it had never occurred to them that I was thinking and feeling things that were worthy of mention. And so I took it upon myself to collate archetype characters based on people that had irritated me. So much about being a mature woman, where we're perceived as having to be kind and tolerant and to not indulge notions of being irritated and to make judgments, and that in actual fact we're having not polite thoughts. And so I wanted to animate impolite thoughts, and I call it my right of reply. So all of the characters in the film are based on people that I kind of just wanted to have my revenge on and have my right of reply and say, I'm not going to tolerate this. And I was making judgments. And while I was invisible to you, you were not invisible to me. And I had a lot of fun doing it, because I think it's important to have that right of reply, really.
I was going to say, it comes across when the character is in that little glass cage, watching everything in the world go around her, and the seasons change and everything else. And then all that stuff that comes round, from human detritus to animal behavior, and it is, you really did it. But it did make me smile. I thought, okay, that woman's had a a whole load of people. She's just decided, that is it, I'm done.
It's so liberating. And I think as women, I think we're conditioned not to actually just be impolite. And I rage against it. I think it's important. I do.
And it is important. That's the whole point. You know, that we do feel empowered to have that right of reply. So often we all have that power, but how many times do we actually call on it, draw on it, and then shove it right back?
Absolutely, yeah. And I used lots of references to films like Aliens and Terminator, like those real gutsy, like female characters that like have guns and wear singlets and are all like ready to go. Tough women. I like it.
It is. It's fantastic. It shows really tough, really powerful women. And again, just an absolute joy to watch. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Every single one of these films in the Power programme is well worth more than one view, and certainly well worth a whole bunch of discussion. And in fact, if you do particularly like a film, please go on our website and vote in the Audience Choice Award, because you never know, it might actually be one of the films that are in this lovely Power cohort that is the winning one. So thank you for your time, and thank you to all the filmmakers for their skills and just giving up their time from us, especially somebody getting up at the crack of sparrows in New Zealand for us. Much appreciated, and I look forward to meeting you all again, hopefully in person next time. So it's a big goodbye from me, Thomasina Gibson, and our filmmakers. I'm going to start with Ella, the writer. How on earth did you come up with this fantastic idea for this great movie?
I started writing this film about almost 4 years ago now, and there were a few influences. First of all, we had a location on a friend's property in Cornwall. So we were trying to come up with something that was site specific. I then came up with the idea for a film which was about this older woman and a relationship with a younger man, and looking at the cross-generational dynamic there. And I wanted to tell a story with an older woman in it. Ageism is something that grates on me massively. I really wanted to have a conversation about that. And it was also around about the time that the Brexit vote was happening, and you were seeing a lot in the media, a lot of the older generations and the younger generations, and they just weren't seeing eye to eye. So I wanted to comment on that. So those are the main influences. I think the big question for me was, who has the right to choose whether one person's life is worth more than another? That was really at the root of this film for me.
Thank you for that. It definitely came across that whole dilemma, you know, that we're having at the moment with overpopulation of the world. And does that mean that, you know, we wait for pandemics to come and wipe us out, or to redress the balance, or do we take it in hand and do it? So yes, so Angus as director, how was it directing them?
It was the joy of my life, honestly, to have someone who has such incredible talent. Leaves me with the glorious job of actually getting to shape many options in takes, so that when I get to the edit room going, oh my God, there are all these variations in the rushes, and you know, if we put this one here or put that one there, how does that change the audience's response and reaction to that moment? And it was such a blessing to have both MARCIA and Papa, really two formidable actors going against each other on the screen. And yeah, it honestly, it just gives you such a breadth of opportunity to really tell the story the way that it served best on screen.
It so came across that, you know, that whole power play with the sort of quiet acceptance of Marcia, I've got this power, and this young guy thinking that he did have the power, when actually, you know what, something to think about. Jane's producing, where do you start in getting such an astounding cast?
Through Ella's script, we were able to get funding off the strength of the script. We were able to work with a great casting director, Colin Jones, who suggested Marcia to us. And, you know, with Papa as well, it was quite organic how we got Papa. Someone at a film festival, we pitched for funding. They knew him personally, and he actually contacted us and was like, hey, I want to be in the film. So that was amazing.
So Marcia, how did you feel about just coming on and stepping onto this film and this amazing role? What intrigued you from the start?
I did fall in love with the script, I must say. And you know, they say you can tell about an actor if he says one line. Well, we had a read through, which is a rare thing these days for films or television. And Papa said one line, and I thought, he is magnificent. You really can tell from the beginning. It's extraordinary. And it was a wonderful opportunity. I played nothing like it, really, before. I seem to be given sweet ladies with dementia or serial killers, which is something to do with my personality. I can't think what.
that great power play.
The tension is amazing. You know, it was such a small crew. They were all doing about 3 jobs each. I couldn't believe it when wardrobe started to do the props on the set. I thought, what's going on here? It was a miracle it got done with so small a crew, but they were all utterly brilliant. So that helps, doesn't it?
I found it really poignant when the cast stood up and announced who they were in number. So that must have been quite a strong moment on set.
The terrible thing about this is it's sort of plausible. That's the dreadful thing. And with COVID and everything, people saying, well, you know, they are very old people dying, you know, it's not like the young. You thought, oh my God, it's all coming true.
Yeah, that's why I found it quite terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, sort of echoes back to Nazi Germany. Now this whole, well, you know, when you've got to a certain age, that, you know, that's it. It's bound to encourage lots and lots of debate. You
do seem to become invisible when you're older, don't you? I'm afraid. Let me tell you, on a pavement or something. You know, and it's terrifying when there's this great fire inside you and you're very young inside. What is your hope with this film going out into the world? That they all reap the great rewards that they should, and they put their heart and soul into it and managed it so incredibly. So fantastic. So guys, thank you so much for taking part in this. So until we actually meet in person, thank you so much. Got jazz hands here. Anyway, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.